Welcome back. Today I will show you the best legendary hunter build that only consists of legendary gear. Every piece is legendary, every weapon, every gear piece. So you don't have to go for an epic grind for the perfect purple items. You can just make this build right now. And it is not the Master of Artemis set. I have found a set that deals the double amount of damage than the Master of Artemis set. So stay tuned and watch this video. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like or a comment and maybe even join our Discord server. Before we go into the details of this build, I want to show you two important mechanics that will increase your hunter damage and playing performance by a dramatic margin. The first one is the Stealth Master ability. Stealth Master is located in the Assassin ability tree, but it has an effect on hunter damage as well. During the day we can hit 750k on a normal civilian. But during the night, when Stealth Master is active and you are not spotted, you are out of combat, our damage is increased by around 10% to 800k. Even more important is Sixth Sense. Simplified, Sixth Sense is doubling our hunter damage for 8 seconds when being spotted. So with a normal fire arrow we hit 1.4 million, with no other ability. But if we are not spotted, if the enemy does not have an exclamation mark, we can only hit 670k. That is also lowering our ability damage and decreasing the chance of one-hitting enemies. This build will deal 3.4 million damage with the devastating shot and up to 4.8 million damage with the predator shot. And these shots were done during the day, so overnight you will fairly get more damage out of it. Multi-shots will deal 1.5 to 2 million damage and the ghost arrows of Artemis will deal up to 3 million damage. You see that these numbers are really close to the epic build I have just released and you will be fairly surprised by the gear I have used. Here is easily 6 to 7 million with the overpower shot, no problem during the night to hit 7 million. And you can even rush assassinate every mercenary in the game. That is not possible with the Master of Artemis set. You cannot rush assassinate mercenaries on Nightmare with the Master of Artemis set. And of course critical assassination, no problem at all. And even the warrior abilities deal a lot of damage. Furious Bloodline, more than 2 million damage. And even the warrior overpower attack is able to one-hit mercenaries in a single strike. It is simply the best legendary hunter build you can make. First of all, I will show you the damage calculation for hunter damage for the first time ever on my channel, so that you can understand why I choose specific engravings over others. The body shot base damage with a normal arrow without any damage increase is around 10,000 damage. We will put that damage on the left side. It starts at 100%, so we will deal 100% of 10,000 damage. We can then increase it with 24% hunter damage, 20% hunter damage. Elemental damage also uses 10,000 as a base value, but it starts at 0%, which means with 0% fire or poison damage you will have 0 additional elemental or fire damage. So simply switching your arrows to poison or fire will not lead you to deal any more damage. You have to add fire or poison engraving or increase the percentage otherwise. So everything is then added together, which means every percentage of elemental damage is equal to a percent of hunter damage. So when you can add a lot of elemental damage on top of it, for example, you have 220% hunter damage plus 180% fire damage, you will in fact have 400% hunter damage when you use fire arrows. And that is why elemental is so important and so strong. Unlike for warrior damage, we have no damage with bows engraving. Sadly, we cannot increase our hunter damage with an additional factor. We have no weapon damage factor for hunter damage. And that makes it so difficult to increase hunter damage. The only viable way is by adding as much elemental damage as possible, because they count 1 to 1 as hunter damage. So after adding together the elemental part and the normal hunter damage part, there's a next specialty about hunter damage. Headshot and crit damage can simply be added together. They behave equally. So when you make a headshot, the headshot damage comes on top of your crit damage. So when calculating the damage for a headshot, simply add these together and multiply everything that is in the base. For body shots, only the crit factor matters, of course. After doing that, the damage gets again multiplied by abilities. Abilities stack on top of each other. So when we have Sixth Sense, 200%, do a devastating shot, 400%, we multiply our damage by 600%. And for the abilities, there's no +1. It's just a factor, 6 times, 4 times, 2 times. The last multiplier is then the armor penetration. So armor penetration is basically reducing the enemy's armor, and so it is reversely increasing your damage by reducing the enemy armor. So that is another real factor. It's nothing that stacks, it is one of the most important engravings. 30% armor penetration plus 10% from the Masteries is what you have to do for warrior and hunter builds. To give you an overview of which engravings are best for this build, I have calculated every value for all the engravings we will use. The best engraving of all is, of course, 100% crit damage at full health. Calculated with the values of this build, we will have 79k damage increase for that engraving. The second best engraving is fire damage. 40% fire damage will give us 63k damage. It is even better than 50% crit damage. 50% crit damage will only give us 40k damage. And then comes 50% headshot damage, the same value as explained. Then 24% hunter damage with 38k damage, almost as good as headshot damage, because raising our base damage value with fire damage and with hunter damage is much more powerful than just adding the already very high crit and headshot damage. Then 20% hunter damage gives us 32k damage, and 10% all damage, which we will not use, would give us 16k damage. For those who are interested, the calculations are added in the description. When you compare this set with the Master of Artemis set, you will have a higher hunter damage value on the screen here on the Master of Artemis set. But that doesn't matter, because we have much more crit damage with this set, so we will outperform the Master of Artemis set by a factor of 2. We also have a not so bad warrior damage with 42,000 damage and really good assassin damage with 327k damage, and that is enough to get rush assassinations all over the place. For the left weapon I use the Atlantean blade, which you can obtain from the Phidias questline when you solve the puzzle in the cultist ruin on Lemnos. It has the armor penetration engraving on it, and it is also unlocking that engraving, so you can place it then on any other gear, and we will engrave it with another 40% fire damage. In general, the best combination for melee weapons for a hunter build is always hunter, crit and fire. Or you can use poison damage if you prefer that. The right weapon is the Golden Harbinger, which you can unlock when you complete the third episode of the Legacy of the First Blade. So you can find it in Messenia when you simply play through the quests of the DLC. The Golden Harbinger has hunter damage, headshot damage, and we will engrave it with fire damage as well. Because headshot damage behaves like 50% crit damage, we simply have the same perfect hunter, crit and fire here, just with the headshot. By the way, the Golden Harbinger is the only melee weapon with headshot damage. Then I picked the Hades bow here with warrior damage, another fire damage, the auto fire conversion, which is only on that bow, and the convert 50% warrior to all damage. So when you turn on the autocraft for normal arrows, you will just never run out of special arrows. You can just use normal arrows instead of fire arrows, and that is really convenient even for new players or for casual players. All the fire damage is just added automatically without having to worry about crafting. And then we use a really nice trick here. We use the convert 50% warrior damage not because we have the Hades bow, but because all our gear pieces also have warrior damage. I simply used the best warrior legendary gear, the Nemean Lion set, and converted all the warrior damage into hunter damage and made it the best hunter build. It's way better than the Artemis set. It has 100% crit chance and more than 600% critical damage. Master of Artemis set has only 275 when it has 100% crit chance. It is outperforming it by more than 400%, and that more than makes up the loss of a little bit hunter damage. The convert 50% warrior damage to all damage engraving is from the third episode of the Atlantis DLC. In order to make this build work, you have to have this engraving on your gear, otherwise it will not work. If you don't have that engraving, then you should rather look for an epic build instead. So on the Nemean Lion headgear we have warrior damage, critical damage, and we engrave another 20% crit chance at full health. Then on the bracers we add 10% crit chance again, another 10% crit chance on the belt, 50% crit damage on the torso, and 100% crit damage while full health on the boots. By using the complete Nemean line set, we also get the set bonus of 10% crit chance and 50% crit damage. We don't have to engrave another crit chance on the bow, so that we can use more of the legendary engravings like convert damage or even the automatic fire conversion, which is really, really nice. The Nemean line set is also the only legendary set that has a really usable set bonus. It is worth almost 2 additional engravings with 10% crit chance and 50% crit damage. So compared to using epic gear, we don't really lose that much. When we take a look at the complete stats, we have now 210% warrior damage, 165 assassin and 215 hunter. We have the same 215 headshot damage. And then we have here 2 times 27% with daggers and staff. That is something I increased from the Masteries. Then we have 100% crit chance, of course, and 675% critical damage at full health, together with 180% fire damage. So really, really nice. When we add 180 to 215% hunter damage, we are basically at 395% hunter damage. Then we have some other small health and armor bonuses, all coming from the Masteries. And of course we have all the adrenaline bonuses here, mainly stacking on top of each other. With a normal assassination, you will also make a critical hit and a normal hit. You will get up to 3 full adrenaline bars when you do a normal assassination, so that is more than you will ever need. When we compare these values to the Master of Artemis set, we see that we have 260% hunter damage, 265% headshot damage, but only 275 critical damage, while still being at 100%. So that is a huge difference. And that's also the reason why the Master of Artemis set is not the best legendary hunter set. It is in fact a warrior set that beats it. For our abilities, we will go for Sixth Sense. As explained in the beginning, that is doubling our hunter damage. In fact, it adds a multiplier of 200%. And when we combine it with other shots, these two numbers are added together, so 200 plus 400 from the devastating shot, then we will deal 600%. So doubling is not completely correct, but for a normal shot it doubles. Normally you could completely skip Arrow Master here when you have the permanent fire engraving, but if you don't have the permanent fire, you have to go for at least 2 points on Arrow Master. Then we have multi-shot. Somebody asked me about spread shot, but spread shot really it is one of the worst hunter abilities in the game. I would never use it. Multi-shot is always better. Spread shot is dealing less than even the single shot. Devastating shot, one of the best, easiest to use abilities, 400%. Predator shot, even more so with 600%. Then of course we go for the Archer Mastery, which gives us 40% free hunter damage, adrenaline refill, overpower with 7 million, and then we go also for the ghost arrows. Basically all the good hunter abilities here. This build is almost a really good hybrid build. It is not so focused on warrior, but we can still use some warrior abilities here. Charged heavy attack, not so important, you can obviously skip that. We only have daggers and staffs. So with staffs it is particularly useful, but with daggers really not so much. Weapons Master is mandatory. It increases our crit chance by 10%. Gear Master increases our armor. We use 1 point to unlock flaming attacks. However, if you want to have a permanent fire sword, you can either use the ability here, then go for 3 points on the flaming attacks, or you can also engrave permanent fire on your dagger, for example, to improve the build. Then we have, of course, Fire Mastery with 40% free fire damage, really nice, better than 25% from the poison, so we always go for a fire because we get more damage from the Fire Mastery. Overpower, really nice. Fury of the Bloodline refills your adrenaline. Don't miss it, it can really help out a lot. Ring of Chaos, just if you are in trouble, you can use it. You should always use also fire when you use these abilities, because that will greatly increase the damage. And then the health refill, of course, Second Wind. In the Assassin tree, I almost always go for the first row here with Shadow Assassin. Gives you free crit damage, also assassin damage on top. Then we go for Rush Assassination, one of the best abilities in the game. Kill every mercenary from distance, and I have made this build so that it will always work with every mercenary. Critical Assassination just as a bonus on top. I would rather use Rush Assassination. But then Stealth Master gives you 10% free damage overnight. For the Masteries, I tried to make it more clear this time. Then when I use 20 points, this ability is really needed. You should also go for it and try to max it out. But when I do not use 20 points, only 15 or less, then that is an optional item. You should not really go for it if you don't have the points. And I think you can save almost 200 points when you don't use the optional stuff here. I will go for hunter damage here, max it out, because this is a hunter build, of course. Damage with stuffs is optional. Just if you want to play with stuffs, then go for it. Even increase it further if you want, but I've rather just put a couple of points here to make it clear that you do not necessarily have to use it. Then crit chance, crit damage, of course. Then headshot damage. You should max it out if possible. Not so important then is damage with bow charge shot. It will behave like normal hunter damage, but it is only triggered when you're fully charged, and I think 15 points is enough. Bow charging speed, not so much. And then damage with bows on distant targets. That is really not so useful because there's an existing distance multiplier in the game. So you will just add some mere points on a distant target. It acts like damage on Athenian or Spartans. It's not really multiplied, it's just added damage on top of it, and that's why it's not really useful. Then we have the adrenaline bonus, and that's it here for the hunter tab. You should rather not go for the ability damage increases here, because you have to imagine when you have 400% for devastating shot already and you increase it by another 4%, it's like a 1% increase. 4% of 400 is in fact only a 1% increase, so keep that in mind. Then we go for full warrior damage on the warrior side. Health, armor, if you have the points, it could help not to die here, but in general you would rather play on distance. Fire and armor penetration especially is a must-have. Armor penetration acts like a multiplier, so you should really go for it. For the assassin tree here, we go for damage whenever time is slowed down. Since we are hunter, we have 6th sense, and we increase that 6th sense damage just by quite small margin here, but it will always trigger, it will always give us the damage on top for every ability. So that is basically increasing all our abilities, not even for hunter but also for warrior and assassin. It is for everything, because every time we get spotted we get these percentage. Then we need some more assassin damage for the rush assassination to work, so we should go for maximum here. Damage with daggers also just optional. If you want to play with the daggers or with the staff, go either for the daggers or the staff, or go for nothing of them. If you just want a pure hunter assassin hybrid or just a hunter build, then really ignore this. The must-haves here are obviously crit chance at full health, crit damage at full health, and then when you have enough points, go for the damage while full health. That is optional, it is only adding small piece of damage here, but everything helps, everything will get you closer to the 7 million. And the adrenaline, we stack everything here on top of each other, so we get more out of our 24 points. Instead of maxing every category here, we just spread them and get more out of it. Optional here, damage on elites and bosses. But I recommend using some points on rush assassination, because the rush assassination is a really weak ability with only 150%. When we add a couple of percent on that, it has a bigger effect. So 8% on rush assassination could really help out with the mercenaries. I hope you enjoyed the build. I really liked playing a lot with it, especially the rush assassination is really fun, makes a lot of fun to play with it. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and thanks for watching.